All right, let's talk about something that's basically the hidden engine behind our entire world: inventory management. Seriously, it's the unsung hero that gets every single thing, from your morning coffee to your phone, from some factory floor all the way into your hands. So let's pull back the curtain and see how it really works. I mean, really think about it for a second. You walk into a store, and the one thing you're looking for is almost always just there. How does that happen? It's not magic, that's for sure. It's this incredibly complex, carefully managed balancing act that's happening all the time, just out of sight. And that whole system, that complex dance, is what we call inventory management. It's the whole shebang of tracking and controlling the flow of goods to make sure the right products are in the right place, at the right time, and in exactly the right amount. So, here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the absolute basics. What even is inventory? Then we'll get into the surprising costs of just letting stuff sit on a shelf. After that, we'll explore the really smart techniques companies use to manage it all, including a fascinating strategy called risk pooling. And finally, we'll wrap up by asking the big question: is it always the right move? Okay, so first things first. When we say inventory, it's easy to just picture a bunch of boxes in a warehouse, but it's actually way more than that. It exists in a few different forms along the whole production journey. Everything kicks off with raw materials. These are the fundamental ingredients a company buys to make its products. So for our biscuit factory, we're talking about the flour, the sugar, the oil, all the stuff you need before you can even think about making a single biscuit. You can think of these as the absolute non-negotiable building blocks. If you don't have a steady supply of these, your entire production line just stops, dead in its tracks. Next in line, you've got your work-in-progress inventory. So sticking with our biscuit example, this would be the mixed dough. It's not raw flour anymore, but it hasn't been baked or put in a package yet. It's stuck in the middle. This is all the stuff that's actively being worked on. It's being mixed, shaped, assembled. Basically, it's inventory in motion, right on the factory floor, on its way to becoming a finished product. And then we get to the stuff that most of us actually picture when we hear the word inventory: finished goods. These are the final products, all packaged up and ready to go. Our biscuit is finally baked, cooled, and sitting in its wrapper. This is the end of the line for the production process. These are the items sitting on a shelf waiting for the final step in their big journey: you coming along to buy them. And finally, there's a category that most people totally forget about: MRO. That stands for maintenance, repair, and operations. We're talking about things like safety gloves, cleaning supplies, or spare parts for the machines on the factory floor. These things never actually end up in the final product, but they are absolutely essential. Think of them like the backstage crew for a big concert. Without them, the whole show just can't go on. Okay, so we know what inventory is, but why is managing it so critical? Well, it boils down to one thing: money. Every single item a company holds, in any of these forms, costs money to just have. And it's not just the price tag. There are all these hidden costs. Generally, we can lump these costs into four main buckets. First, you've got the obvious purchase cost, what you paid for the item. Then there's the ordering cost, all the paperwork and admin it takes to place an order. Now the big one is the holding cost. That's paying for warehouse space, insurance, security, and the risk that your stuff becomes obsolete. And finally, there's the really painful one: shortage cost. That's the money you lose when a customer wants to buy something, but you're all out. The entire game is a constant battle to minimize all four of these at the same time. So how in the world do companies pull off this juggling act? Well, they use some really clever management techniques to find that perfect, cost-effective sweet spot. Let's check out a couple of the most important ones. One of the classic tools in the toolbox is the economic order quantity, or EOQ. Now, this graph looks complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's like a seesaw. See, as your order size gets bigger, your costs for holding all that stuff go up. But at the same time, your costs for placing orders go down because you're ordering less often. The EOQ formula is designed to find that perfect sweet spot, that lowest point on the total cost curve, where those two forces are perfectly balanced. And this isn't just some abstract theory. Companies plug in their real-world numbers: how much they sell in a year, how much it costs them to place an order, and so on. And as you can see right here, after you run the numbers, the math tells you the ideal order quantity is exactly 600 units. It turns a really fuzzy question into a clear, actionable answer. But knowing how much to order is only half the puzzle. You also got to know when to order. And that's where the reorder point comes in. It's basically a tripwire. As soon as your stock on hand drops to that specific level, a new order automatically goes out. The goal was for that new shipment to show up right as you're about to run out, or just as you start to use your safety stock, that little extra buffer you keep on hand for emergencies. And finally, it's super important to remember that not all inventory is created equal. That's the whole idea behind ABC analysis. It's basically the 80-20 rule applied to your warehouse. Your A items are your superstars, the top 10% of items that actually make up, say, 70% of the value. You watch those like a hawk. But your C items, they're the little guys, the vast majority of your products that don't add up to much value. You can be a bit more relaxed with those. It's all about focusing your time and energy where it really counts. Okay, so let's get into a really powerful next-level strategy that can completely change how a business thinks about where it keeps its stuff. It's called risk pooling. So imagine a company that has, say, 2 different stores. The old school way of doing things would be to have a separate little warehouse for each one, right? But that means each location needs its own safety stock, that extra buffer inventory to handle any unexpected spikes in demand. What you end up with is duplicated inventory and way higher holding costs for the company overall. But now watch this. With risk pooling, the company gets rid of the small warehouses and centralizes everything into one big one. All of a sudden, you're not trying to guess 2 separate, unpredictable demand patterns. You're managing one larger and much more predictable combined demand. And the payoff is huge. You need way less safety stock overall, which slashes your holding costs and makes it way easier to avoid running out of stock at any single store. I mean, think about how Amazon can get you almost anything from a giant regional center. That's risk pooling in action. So, centralization sounds like a total no-brainer, right? Just put everything in one place, save a bunch of money, problem solved? Well, not so fast. Like any big strategy, this one comes with a pretty serious trade-off. On the one hand, the benefits are awesome. You lower your inventory costs, you have fewer stockouts, and your logistics get a lot simpler. But on the other hand, the downsides are just as real. Shipping from one central hub out to every single store can make your transportation costs go way up. You might be slower to react to what's happening in a local market. And of course, building a massive central warehouse costs a fortune up front. And this leaves us with a really fascinating question for the world we live in right now. As all of us demand everything faster, same day, even 1-hour delivery, does the cost-saving power of a central warehouse still make sense? Or does that need for speed force companies to put their products closer to us, even if it costs them more? That is the strategic tightrope that defines modern business, and every single company has to figure out exactly how they're going to walk it. Thanks for watching.